Welcome everyone to another weekly team hangout. This week we have Federico with us. Federico is a software engineer at Dusk. He has been working on multiple aspects, but I'll let him talk a little bit about that in just a minute. And yeah, these weekly hangouts are here so that we get different team members in front of the community, get to know them a bit more, ask any questions we have, get updates, and stay informed with everything that's happening at Dusk. Yeah, Federico, welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you. Great. But to inviting me, I think this is a very nice initiative to let the community get to know the team. Yeah, nice.
100%. I was having just a little bit of lag while hearing you then. Was that just me, guys, or could you say something else, Federico?
Just yes, I can.
Okay, now it's better. Now it's better. Maybe it was just a bit low on my end, but now it seems fine. Okay, good. Just wanted to double check. But yeah, pleasure to have you. Pleasure to have you on, Federico. Can you tell us a little bit, for those that don't know who you are, what you're currently doing at Dusk, and just a little introduction about yourself, and then we can get into some of the questions.
Sure. Well, I'm Federico, as you know, and I'm a computer scientist. And to say, I've been working in blockchain since almost 10 years now. So after earning my master in computer science, I started a PhD in what was in 2016, I think. And my PhD was actually on the Bitcoin network security. And the project was on botnets concerning the Bitcoin network. The project didn't actually make a lot of sense, but it wasn't my fault. So after that, I started just looking at the Bitcoin network layer, the protocol, and I did my work there. I published several papers on the security of the Bitcoin network protocol. So after that, I started working for a company in Ireland for a few months until it closed. Like many other blockchain companies who start and close by the end of the year. But that was a meaningful experience to me, actually, because I first started touching other aspects of the blockchain space. And I started looking at Ethereum, and I started looking at consensus protocols a bit. And mostly I started understanding what my role could be in a company like that. And that actually applied the same in Dusk, which I joined about around 3 years ago. The goal for me was to have a look at the consensus of the consensus protocol, which at that moment was considered almost closed and finished, but I kind of overturned that statement and started finding several issues which brought the protocol to be changed a lot over the first year I've been at Dusk. And that's been quite the experience for me because I managed to, both learn about consensus protocols, which I only knew from Bitcoin, but there's so much more around, and I learned to work. I'm not really sure how to define my job really, because I'm not a developer. Although I do some development, and I mostly overview what's being done, and that was I did for consensus. And so I was looking at the code, finding problems, formalizing what's being done, and following the development that we were doing after I suggested changes. Or it's been a bit of a team effort really, but I was overlooking at everything. And that's what I've been doing the past few months for DuskEVM. So I kind of jumped in voluntarily because once I understood the priority of the project, told the team that maybe I should join forces with them, and that's what I've been doing since. So yeah, I've been mostly looking at the Optimism protocol, the whole documentation, and seeing what was being done, it was right, and trying to fix what was not. So, yeah, that's more or less me.
Nice, very interesting. Yeah, so yeah, you've had your hands in a lot of different aspects, especially the consensus, and very interesting to hear that you did your PhD, thesis in on Bitcoin. What attracted you at that point? Were you already involved in the crypto ecosystem at that stage quite a lot, and you wanted to get your foot into the door, or how did you get
Not
attracted to
really.
like blockchain?
I was kind of dragged there by chance. My focus before the PhD was actually on cybersecurity at lower level, so
Oh, cool.
malware, virtual machines, things like that. I was doing research on virtual machine securities for rootkits and things like that, if you know what those are, and botnets,
I'll
which
pretend
is
like I know.
what I was. Yeah, that's cybersecurity stuff, low-level cybersecurity stuff, and I was meant to do the PhD on that in France. But then if you know the Bell Labs where I was meant to go, they were bought off by Nokia, and they they kind of blocked everything, every hiring process at the time. So my mentor, which asked me to do the PhD with him, he called me and told me, "Look, this is a no-go, but there's a friend in Barcelona. They're looking for a PhD student for blockchain and IoT." I had literally had no idea what he was talking about, but I was kind of ready with my suitcases, so I decided to go and take the chance. So it was completely by chance that I bumped into blockchain.
Nice. So you
It
took
was a
a leap of
fortunate event.
faith.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I'm meant to leave my place, so who cares? Let's change completely the topic of my research and let's see how it goes. And it went well. It was actually very lucky because blockchain is so popular right now that job wise, it's I've been very lucky, I would say.
Love to hear that. That's very cool to hear. And so after you went through all of this experience, then you started working with different blockchain companies, and I assume after the your previous job where that company kind of ended, is that when you found out about Dusk and then decided to join, or
Yeah,
how did you how did you find Dusk, and actually what attracted you most about joining at that time?
like other things, it was Dusk who found me actually, found me, and that was thanks to Marta, that many of you might know. She's been with Dusk for a long time, and she was at the same university where I did my PhD.
Oh,
So
cool.
after, yeah, as well as Javi, who's not with us anymore, and Xavier is also from the same university.
I didn't know
And
that.
at
You
the
guys
time,
already were, yeah.
yeah, we were colonizing Dusk, and but even my wife was joined the company at the time, and she's also from the same university. So it was like four of us from the same room, the same department, joined Dusk.
Nice. You guys were trying to take over slowly. I see.
Yeah,
Very
she
cool.
just saw the opportunity. She knew that they were looking for someone to have a look at the consensus protocol, and she recommended me to have a chat with Emma. So at the time, I was already looking for a new job since my previous company was closed, and I was undergoing interviews with other big names like Google or Protocol Labs, if you know, from IPFS. It's a big name. I was excited about it, and then I talked with Emma, and it probably helped that we are from the same town.
Another
So
fun fact.
we're yeah. Well, actually, that was part of the thing that convinced me because the communication was really, really direct and easy. So it was very informal and it attracted me both for that part, and the project itself was very interesting, more than those I was interviewing for with other companies. So even though the name was not that big, I thought I might have liked it better. And I didn't regret my choice. I'm very happy actually about being at Dusk. It's been a very nice experience so far.
Very cool to hear. Yeah, I guess you saw the potential of what Dusk could become, and you being a part of that. So that's very cool. It's something that attracted me as well when I first saw it, and joined Dusk. And so now you're working on DuskEVM, and you mentioned you dabbled a little bit on on Ethereum in the past. So did you already have some sort of experience of working with EVM chains or an understanding of it, or was DuskEVM one of the first time you worked on EVM compatible chains? And how did you find the experience?
I would consider more as a first experience because previous company was working with EVM, but not directly. So we were using other tools, and the project was only touching the Ethereum network and EVM networks as a side thing, let's say. So yeah, I never had hands-on, especially layer 2 networks, and that's been very interesting to look at because especially Optimism is a very complex project. And having a look at the documentation and the source codes and everything has been both challenging and interesting to understand what it does, how it works. So yeah, it's been very interesting so far. I learned a lot about both the Ethereum protocol and the Optimism there too.
Nice. I remember we got some information from Moana and Milosh that the translation of between Dusk DS and Dusk EVM was one of the aspects which happened to be a bit more challenging when trying to implement Dusk EVM onto in Dusk and in our modular architecture. Would you say there are other aspects which were a bit challenging, or would you agree on the kind of consensus that was one of the harder parts?
Yeah, I think the hard part was this translation part. Also understanding the whole Optimism architecture has been quite challenging because there are so many components, and we felt we didn't need all of them at the beginning because we wanted this to move fast. So we kind of cherry picked those essential components that we wanted to work with, and then the plan is to build on top of that. And so it's been challenging because we are not really doing what Optimism is expecting the layer 1 to do. And most of all, we are pretending, we are making L2 believe that we are Ethereum. And that's,
Right.
The Dusk network is very different from the Ethereum network. That's a different virtual machine, different consensus protocol, different everything, right? It's very different. So, you have to get everything that we do and transform it in a way that Optimism can understand. That was not the initial project design. The initial idea was to use what's called ALDA in Optimism, which is basically just using Dusk as a storage for L2 blocks. And at some point we decided not to go that way because it's more centralized, a bit less secure. So we implemented what's called blob transactions, which is what L2 uses for storing block data on Ethereum. And we implemented that for Dusk, and that was not too hard. But then we had to mimic the blocks, transactions, addresses, signatures, everything that's different from our network, and we're kind of picking those up and transforming them before feeding to Optimism. And that part has been really tricky because of the intricacies of the code.
Right. I can imagine. Since they're so vastly different, and you have to take every single one and make sure it kind of fits together. A lot of things, need to be figured out. So that's great that, from my understanding, DuskEVM is currently running pretty smoothly. So, congrats guys on doing an amazing job work. But since we are getting into that, maybe you can give us a little bit of update of what's happening with DuskEVM at the moment. Is it, how are things going? I know there's some testing. Last week there was some testing Moana was mentioning on the bridge, on the deposit flow. Anything you can tell us about the testing and the progress there?
Yeah, that's actually a perfect time to have an update, because since yesterday we successfully did a deposit transaction. So we successfully bridged Dusk from the Dusk DS network to DuskEVM network. So that's
awesome.
a gay moment, a very very cheerful moment for us, because it's been hard as well because of the reasons I already mentioned.
Right.
The development is not easy because it's like a trial and error way of doing things, because it's not, you have to see what Optimism does at the contract level, and it's not easy to foresee what's gonna be. But now we managed to have the bridge working, at least in one way, which is great news, because it's a huge step forward towards having the whole system working. And actually it is working now, because the two chains are syncing, and since you can bridge Dusk to the DuskEVM network, you can actually use them. So you can start deploying stuff, sending transactions, and do whatever you need to do. The only thing that is missing is the withdrawal part. So moving back Dusk from DuskEVM to Dusk, which you can do when you want to withdraw your money, but it's not something you do commonly. So we are working on that right now. It shouldn't be as hard as the deposit flow. And actually we are making progress right now. So we have this service that we implemented to help the users move with the withdrawal flow without having to manually check everything on the two networks, because of the way it works, you need to send a withdrawal transaction on DuskEVM and then notify the bridge contract on L1 about that transaction. So to avoid having users to do that, we implemented a service that automatically detects those transactions and add the withdrawal in a pending status in the bridge on L1. And after a week period of finalization, then the money can be transferred to the user.
Right. That's amazing. That's music to my ears. I love hearing that. So the DuskEVM is currently running smoothly. The testing on deposit flow is complete and it's successful as of yesterday. And that includes the web wallet integration of the deposit as well, right? So the flow would be through the web wallet. Amazing. And now the final part would be testing and finalizing the testing on the withdrawal flow. So web wallet integration of the withdrawal flow and making sure that the actual withdrawals happen as they're expected. And I assume
Right.
now I have no idea what goes behind the scenes in terms of the development of this, but I assume there are some similarities between the deposit and the withdrawal when it comes to the components, the code, and the language, the whatever. Maybe I'm not making. I don't want to make a fool of myself, but you know what I mean.
No. Yeah, I totally understand. And the answer is partly because the flow from DustDS to DuskEVM was affected by this mismatch between the two networks and the fact that Optimism expects an Ethereum layer 1, and which we are not. So that part was much harder, while the withdrawal flow is much more in our hands. So once the transaction has been done on the L2, you just need to notify the L1 breach about it, and that's it, at least for now. Then a more advanced version will have to prove the inclusion of the transaction on L2 and the fact that it was a withdrawal, but that's gonna be the next step, let's say. But for now, it would be actually much simpler than the deposit flow, because the rest of the second part of the flow after the transaction is on our side, so we have full control of that.
Okay, yeah, that's great news. I see there's a question in the comment in the chat here. Someone is asking, how do you make or can you be sure there are no security risks in the bridge?
In security, you're never sure about the security of stuff. You just try to make everything as safe as possible, and that there's no such thing as 100% security in everything. You always see and hear about breach hacks and everything. So what we can do is just to maximize all those vulnerable spots that we are knowledge of. So we will do everything we can. We already did with the design part. So of course, the missing, let's say, proof of inclusion in the L2 is a big part, but we are kind of centralizing the flow with our own tool. So as long as those parts are controlled by Dusk, then as long as you trust Dusk, we are fine. Then in the second step, we'll decentralize things, and that's where the security, which will be much more tricky to handle. But that's the case for all decentralized protocols, and it's always hard to make things fully secure. And I've experienced this a lot in Bitcoin, which is the longest lasting protocol. So it's been there for a long time, and you never stop finding new problems. So that's the sad truth about security, and I've learned that the hard way. But there's very good people working in this project. So we have several pair of eyes looking at both the efficiency but also the security of everything we do.
Got it. And like you mentioned, these parts, it was decided to be designed this way in the beginning, at least in the first phase, where it's a bit more centralized when it comes to the bridge, just so it's more secure and we can also ship it out faster, from what I'm understanding. And then once after this is shipped, in the second phase, we'd focus on decentralizing it. But this was chosen in favor of security and time to market, I would say, right?
Yeah. Our plan is to ship things only if we deem them to be secure enough to be released. So also the use of Optimism is part of that, because we inherit the security that Optimism does from that part. And as soon as we are ready to do it, we will more fully comply to their protocol. So
makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, thank you for Federico. That makes sense. I don't see any more questions for the community from the community, and that's most of the questions that I also had prepared. So, if there are no other questions, one question which I like to ask different team members, Dusk team members, at the end of the session would be looking ahead. What excites you the most about Dusk?
well, considering the fact that I'm not really a DeFi fanatic, and in fact, I'm not a Fi anything, so I never traded anything in my life. I'm not used to look at those. I'm more of a technician, I like the technical part of the project, but it's really exciting to have the possibility of trading things in this way, because it makes it much more tangible for the common people like me, who have no experience and don't want to bother with complex bureaucracy or anything, going through banks. And it's like, I like the idea of being able to trade things by myself using a simple tool, and having everything under control, in a blockchain ledger. It's really exciting. So what I look forward is to see all the components, all the pieces actually come together, and see this network work, and be able to finally trade something just for fun for me. And I know it's not for fun for those who actually work in the field, but that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, no, that's lovely, and this is why I like asking this question. Everyone has a different sort of point of view, being involved in different parts and having different interests. So that was cool. I'm also very excited to see all the parts coming together, and seeing the whole ecosystem in action. It's going to be very, very exciting. Amazing. Thank you so much, Federico. That will be the last the end of the session. So just want to say thank you to everyone that's here today. Thank you for those that asked questions. And in the future, we might bring Federico on again for another session. But for now, that's what we have. And we'll see you guys next week, probably on Thursdays, but we'll post an update early next week. Thank you again, Federico. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Good day.
You too. Bye, everyone.